The finale is here. All right, we are here. All right, so after what we just saw in this episode, I'm not really sure how someone could still not say this is time travel. It damn sure looks like time travel to me. But we're going to get deeper into this, of course, eventually. But I'm just saying, this is one hell of a finale. We got a lot of answers in this episode. And also, I'm pretty sure that you guys have seen the news already online. But yes, it has been confirmed and renewed for season 4. From season 4, baby, it's coming. And hopefully we won't have to wait as long this time, which I'm pretty sure we won't have to because there's no writer strikes, there's no COVID. So hey, we should be back on a regular schedule. Also, like I've already mentioned in my previous videos, and I'm going to continue to mention this in videos moving forward, but I have a Patreon page, guys. If you want to support, please head over there and check out the tiers. I talk about a lot of stuff over there that I don't tend to talk about on this channel. A lot more personal things that I tend to watch that I just never end up discussing. Recently, I just gave a short review on Netflix's The Maid with Margaret Qualley. I thought that was a pretty good show. And I also tend to talk about some more kind of like off the beaten path type topics as well. If you just head over there, there's also a tier where you guys can request things for me to check out and I can watch them and give you guys my thoughts on them as well. But yeah, anyway, let's get into the episode. All right, so we start things off at the sheriff's station with Boyd and Kenny, as Boyd is pointing out the perimeter that they need to search to look for Fatima. During this time is where Boyd slipped up, unfortunately. He revealed to Kenny how Fatima was at the shack and how they need to search that general area, but he didn't realize that he had provided those details to Kenny about Fatima. So now Kenny is like, what is she doing out there in the first place? So Kenny knows that something is a bit fishy, but he still hasn't put 2 and 2 together yet. And unfortunately, if Kenny finds out about this, Kenny is not going to trust Boyd like ever again. This will be the second time that Boyd has lied to Kenny about an event like this. The first time it happened, it was with Sarah and his father, and now this time it's with Fatima and Tilly. So yeah, Boyd is choosing a really bad time to do this because he's just now getting back in Kenny's good graces and earning his trust back, and once Kenny finds this out, it's pretty much completely over between the two of them. But what really saves Boyd in this moment is Ellis walking in and telling both of them that he thinks that Elgin knows, how he knows about where Fatima is. And of course, this is because of the crazy things that Elgin was out saying when him and Ellis were out searching for Fatima together. The guy was slipping up and saying a lot of crazy shit. Then we cut over to Fatima in the cellar and we can see that baby is going crazy up in there. And she's about to have some real problems on her hands. And of course, you guys already know who she's about to be giving birth to, but we're going to wait to talk about that later. Then we cut back over to the sheriff's station where Boyd, Kenny, and Ellis are trying to come up with a plan to confront Elgin, because Ellis just gave them some information on the crazy shit that Elgin has been saying, and he's like, I don't know if it's Elgin behind this or if he's getting information from someone else, but the kid knows something. Then we cut over to the Matthews where Ethan and Jim are rolling back up and they find out about the events that happened with Tabitha and Julie. You know, the weird Miranda events. And during this time outside, Victor tells Ethan how he saw the boy in white, but unfortunately he wasn't very helpful. And the boy in white was very cryptic when he said he was trying to use Christopher to help them, and we still don't really know what the hell that means. But like I said, Victor told Ethan that he saw the boy in white and how he wasn't very helpful. Then inside, Tabitha starts filling in Jim on all the details about the Miranda situation and Victor and all of that. And if you guys were listening closely, Jim asked her, was it some sort of vision or something of what she saw? And Tabitha specifically tells Jim that it was not a vision. It wasn't a vision because it was a memory. I'm trying to tell you guys, man. I'm trying to tell you. After this, Jim goes over to the bar to confront Jade and to basically apologize and say that he's scared and he doesn't know how the hell he's going to protect his family. And unfortunately for Jim, we all know how this is going to end. Yeah, Jim, it's too damn late, buddy. It's too damn late. Or is it too late? Think about that. Or is it too late for Jim? I'm going to get into what I mean by that later. Then we cut back over to Boyd, who's picking up that heavy artillery. And by heavy artillery, I mean Sarah. He grabs Sarah and tells her all the crazy shit that Elgin's been saying about how the baby and Fatima are going to save everyone and get everyone home. And he's like, doesn't that sound familiar? Meaning, doesn't that sound like you? So Boyd is thinking, Sarah, you've been through this shit before, so maybe you can talk his crazy ass out of whatever he's thinking to get him to think correctly. Because you've dealt with this before. After they get over to Colony House, Donna runs outside and Boyd is like, you need to clear the house and make sure Elgin doesn't take his ass anywhere. Now back over at the Matthews with Jim and Tabitha and now Jade. Jade is over there hitting them with some deep psychological ideology type shit. He's telling them about how energy can't be created nor destroyed, it can only be transferred to another. It can only change the form in which it's in. This is another big hint about how Miranda and Tabitha are the same people. Jade goes on to talk about different forms of energy, and then he eventually talks about souls. This is another hint that Miranda's soul is also Tabitha's soul. They are the same people. He talks about how in Fromland, how that energy just tends to linger. He also talks about this after mentioning his experiences and visions with the Civil War soldiers, and how all of this energy, aka souls, just tend to linger around Fromland. Think about what that means, guys. Then Jade tells Tabitha how the creepy dirty little white children have been showing her something that she needs to see, and where did she see them? And she says it was by Victor's truck. So I assume that's where we're going. Alright, so then we cut back over to Colony House, where everyone finally corners Elgin, takes him in a room, sits his crazy ass down, and they're like, tell us where Fatima is. But of course he starts talking crazy about how he feels like the creepy Komodo lady is an angel, and how everything she's saying is true, and how once Fatima has the baby they can all go home and all of that crazy stuff. Of course they're trying to talk to Elgin and get through to him, and Sarah's like, you guys don't understand. Once this place gets in your head, it's just really hard to break that connection. So Boyd plans on getting some tools and interrogating the shit out of Elgin. Then out in the town, we see Henry approaching Victor to have that nice father-son talk, and Victor's like, I need to show you something. It's gonna make you hate me, but I gotta show you. Then we cut out in the shed where Boyd and Subconscious Khatri are talking, and basically they're making it pretty clear that Boyd is a hypocrite. He's not giving Elgin the same treatment he gave Fatima. He still hasn't been honest with Kenny or anyone else. And Subconscious Khatri goes on to point out how Boyd only enforces the rules when they suit him best, which is pretty fucked up. I mean, of course, Boyd is only human as well, and he's also trying to protect his family, but what he is doing is definitely unfair. But either way, Boyd makes up his mind, stacks up his tools, and he's going to go work on Elgin. Then we cut back to the cellar with Fatima, where she picks up a sharp piece of glass, and it looks like she's thinking about doing something crazy, either killing herself or cutting the baby out of her. Not sure which one is going to happen. Then we cut back out to the canned goods truck with Jade, Tabitha, and Jim, and they're still out there just trying to put the pieces together. Jade ends up telling them about the symbol he saw down in the monster caves, and Tabitha ended up telling him how the kids laid on the stones and poured their hope into the roots, and then the roots became the symbol and the symbol became the trees. And of course at this time this shit still means nothing to them and also nothing to us. Then over at the hospital with Randall, he starts hearing the buzzing cicada sounds, and the shit's just driving him crazy. Drives him so nuts that he goes inside the hospital, finds the defibrillator that was brought there in the ambulance when Tabitha got back, and he plans on defibrillating the shit out of his head because the sound is just irritating and annoying the shit out of him that much. It's driving him crazy. But at this time, Marielle walks in and consoles Randall, and it looks like we're finally getting ready to find out how these things have been also affecting Marielle as well. Back at Colony House, Boyd walks in with the tools and he tells everybody to stand outside the door and don't let anyone inside. As he takes out a hammer like he's about to start working on Elgin, the Polaroid camera goes off and shows him a house, and it looks like it's a house that Boyd recognizes. Is this Boyd's house? Then we cut back to Henry and Victor on a hill somewhere outside of town, and Victor reveals to Henry in this moment how this is where he buried Miranda and Eloise. Now Victor did mention how there wasn't much of Eloise left, and I could see how someone could say, well, maybe that wasn't really Eloise, maybe he found body parts of another child. But personally I would think that that was highly unlikely, because I'm pretty sure the pieces that he found may have had pieces of his sister's clothing, but I'm pretty sure that that is highly unlikely considering there's probably no other little kids out there with Victor who's also wearing his sister's clothing. I'm pretty sure that the pieces that Victor found had pieces of Eloise lying around it as well. Now it is possible that Eloise is still alive out there somewhere and Victor is just once again misremembering. But like I said, I think it would be really hard to confuse pieces of a little girl's body who's your sister and wearing similar clothes and stuff like that, which he doesn't talk about these things, but he did say that he found pieces of her. So I'm going to go with the narrative that Eloise is really dead. Well, this version of Eloise is really dead. But like I've said, Victor has been proven to misremember certain details and also things he has forgotten through suppressed memories or whatever you want to call it. He has just not been a reliable narrator in the things that he thinks he remembers. So there's a possibility that she's still out there somewhere. Then back out at Victor's truck with Jade, Tabitha, and Jim, Jim makes history. He makes his biggest contribution to helping everyone he's made since he's been in the town. Since he's been on the show. Since all 3 seasons of the damn show. This is the most helpful thing he's ever done. He points out to Jade how he remembers that there's 12 notes in a scale. And Jade is like, oh shit, Teacup, you're correct. Because Jade reveals to everyone in this moment how he has explored every 12-number numerical pattern out there and he has not found anything. But there was one thing that he missed in the musical notes, so Jade tells Jim to meet him and Tabitha back at the bar and how he needs to run back to his house in the basement and grab the violin because Victor's been hiding the shit from him because he keeps stealing it. And once again, Jade is that guy, and it also kind of looks like he's stealing Tabitha from him. So I guess that also makes Jade Mr. Steal Your Girl. Which that was more so a joke for the end of the episode, but it'll make sense later. Then finally, we cut back over to the hospital where Christy is confronting Marielle about the events that happened between her, Julie, and Randall. And finally, Marielle speaks up and she's like, no, I am not okay. And I don't think we'll ever be okay. So at this time, we still don't know exactly what's been happening with Marielle. The way that we know cicadas are haunting Randall and screams are haunting Julie, we don't know exactly what that is for Marielle yet, but we do know that she has been being tortured by something. Then we cut back over to the Colony house upstairs in the torture chamber with Boyd and Elgin, where Elgin really wants to know what was in the picture that Boyd got from the Polaroid. And Boyd told Elgin how that was the house they were heading to before they ended up in the town, the house that he bought after he retired. He said the only thing that was missing in the photo was the boat. And once again, Elgin wants to try to use this to try to prove his point about them going home, and he's like, yeah, see, it's a picture of your home. Don't you know that this means we're going home? And this could possibly mean something. Once season 4 comes out, it could possibly reveal that maybe these things do point to home in some way. But right now we have nothing, and it sounds like Elgin's on some crazy shit. So Boyd grabs the hammer and starts beating the hell out of Elgin's hand. Then back over at the bar after Tabitha, Jim, and Jade crack the code and they have the musical notes in their head, they need to now play the song. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. Jim is trying to push them not to do it because of the jukebox at the diner, the magical music box that almost killed everyone last season, and just in general how they just have not been having a good time with music in the town. And Jim definitely has a point, but they finally cracked the code and they need to figure out where it leads. So Tabitha has the bright idea to go back out to the tree, and that's where they should play the song. So back in the cellar with Fatima, she takes the sharp piece of glass like she's about to cut the baby out. But before she has a chance to do this, the creepy Komodo lady shows up and takes the sharp piece of glass and puts it to her neck, and she whispers to Fatima that it's coming, and then her water breaks. Then after that, we cut over to the diner where we find out how Julie is a story walker. And during this time, Ethan breaks down the details of being a story walker to Julie because she thinks she can go back in time and save Miss Lou. But Ethan is like, it doesn't work like that because you can go back in time and visit the chapters, but you can't change things because you can't change a story once it's been told. But I'm not really too sure about that because of Julie being able to go back and throw down the rope to Boyd. That seems like an event that would have not been able to happen unless Julie had gone back and did what she did. Now personally, I think that is a prime example of her going back and changing things. Now you could argue that that's the way the story was always written to begin with, and she actually didn't go back in time, she just traveled through some sort of portal that took her to a moment in time that wasn't actually time travel. But right now I think that umbrella term of time travel is the best we have. Then back over at Colony House after annoying ass Officer Acosta walks in there and disrupts everything, and she's downstairs wanting to argue with Boyd about his methods of having to torture Elgin. But at the same time, she also doesn't have a better solution, so she needs to go sit her ass down somewhere. After overhearing their back and forth, Sarah goes upstairs and confronts Elgin, and she tells him about what she experienced as well and how she understands what he's going through. But she reveals to Elgin how Boyd can't go as far as he needs to go to get the information out of him because he's a good man. And she tells Elgin how she won't let this place take Boyd's soul. But she says she ain't got to worry about shit because the place already has her soul, and Boyd just can't go as far as he needs to go to get the information out of Elgin. So in this moment, Sarah is planning to shove her foot all the way down Elgin's ass, all the way down to the knee. After Sarah gives Elgin this badass speech, we cut back to everyone downstairs where we can hear Elgin screaming from upstairs.
Are you? Shit.
Everyone runs back upstairs to see what's going on, and we see Sarah covered in blood, and we see Elgin back there with just his damn whole left eye just poked the hell out. But anyway, with Elgin's eye all shitted up and his hands are all bald and beaten up as well, Sarah turns around and looks at everyone like a straight gangster, and she says she's in the root cellar. So yeah, Sarah knew what the hell she was talking about. Then during this time is where we cut to a simultaneous sequence between Fatima giving birth and everyone trying to get to her in time, and Jade, Tabitha, and Jem out at the special faraway tree playing the song. Down in the cellar with Fatima, we see the creepy Komodo lady helping her give birth as the door leading underground is just slowly opening by itself. At this time, everyone is finally able to get to Fatima, but it is too late. She has now had the baby and the creepy Komodo lady has now gone underground with the child. After they get there, Boyd is like, where did she go? He grabs a lantern and then follows her underground. At this time, Fatima reveals to Ellis and Kenny how she now knows what those things are, the monsters that come out at night. She tells them how she saw what they did. She said that those monsters that walk around every night are parents. They are parents that sacrifice their kids because it told them that they would live forever. So apparently these monsters are parents that sacrifice their children for immortality. Now Fatima tells them that it promised them, but we don't know exactly what it is. Is it the Komodo lady, or is it the person that we're going to see at the end of this episode? We'll talk about that more later. Then back down in the monster caves with Boyd and the creepy Komodo lady and all the monsters, she lays down the sack and the damn thing continues to grow, and we find out that it gave birth to Smiley. Holy shit, it gave birth to Smiley. So I guess this means that Smiley was one of the parents that sacrificed his kid or kids. And Boyd is just standing behind a wall just watching all this shit go down, and can't even imagine how we're going to roll this shit into season 4. Oh wow, but we still got a little bit more to go, guys. Then we finally cut back to Jade, Jim, and Tabitha out in the woods at the faraway tree, where one of the creepy dirty little white children approached Tabitha, and it says Ankui, and they're like, remember. And her and Jade immediately understand that the word means remember.
Ankui.
It means remember.
And in this moment, Jade goes, wow, because one of them was ours, meaning that her and Jade had a previous connection. Then we cut to Jim after he runs behind Tabitha to ask her what the hell is going on right now. She tells him how Jade was Christopher and how she was Miranda, and how they both have been there many times before, but they keep coming back because they keep failing to save the children. She tells Jim that her and Jade were there in the very beginning, and in the very beginning there were a couple who were together and had a little girl together, but they could not save her. So basically her and Jade have been reincarnated several times over and over and over, returning back to Frumland to try to save these children, and they keep returning because they keep failing. And we don't know how many reincarnations they've had where they were actually together, but they were together in the very beginning when they had their daughter. And since then they have been coming back as different people. And in this iteration of Frumland, Tabitha is with Jim, and Jade is some random rich guy who sold his company who ended up there. But even beyond that, they still remember their past lives. And in this moment, Jim's heart just falls to his stomach and pretty much falls out of his ass. He's dealing with a lot right now, and he also needs to understand that his wife once belonged to another. Several others, actually. And that is just a joke that I could not resist. But at this time, it's pretty symbolic because Jim walks through the woods and he walks back over to the RV where all of this shit began. And at this time, the chaos is not over because some really crazy shit happens at this time. Julie shows up and she looks a lot different. Her hair is different, her clothes are different, she has a wound on her face, and we realize that this is not our Julie. But she starts telling Jim like, oh shit, this is where it happens, this is where it happens. I need to change the story because this is where it happens. Basically meaning Jim's death. This is where it happens. She tries to talk to him and get through to him, and at this time is where the mysterious man in the yellow suit shows up. And as he slowly begins to walk towards Jim, he starts telling Jim how that was such a great song that Jade was playing. How Jade sure can play. Almost making it sound like he was summoned because of the song. Almost like rubbing a lamp and a genie comes out. It's like the song summoned him or something. Julie is trying her best in this moment to try to convince Jim how they need to get the hell out of there. But here, unfortunately, is where Jim reverts back to his old self and he refuses to listen. He pushes Julie away, and goddamn, that was one hell of a push. I think he probably hurt that actor, man. He pushed her pretty hard. But after he pushes her away, the man in the yellow suit tells Jim how this didn't have to happen and how knowledge comes with a cost. Jim picks up a weak-ass rotten stick like he's about to fight this guy, and the guy is like, well, Jim, I tried to warn you. He grabs Jim by the neck, holds him up against the RV, and tells him that his wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim. Basically to let him know that he was the guy on the phone.
Your wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim.
And then after that, he kills Jim like one of the monsters by ripping out his damn throat. Jim's blood is just pouring all over the place, and then we cut to black, and goddamn it, we gotta wait till season 4. I wanted to get some more information there, but hey, it is what it is. I thought this season was pretty good. I thought that was a pretty fun way to end everything. Everything is chaotic as always. I had a lot of fun right there. Now let's just talk about real quick some of the shit that just happened. So we definitely know that this has happened over and over, and this version of Julie has been traveling around trying to save Jim, which means the current Julie in our timeline finds out about Jim's death eventually, and she continues to try to go back to save her father. But of course she has already gone back multiple times. It looks like she's even got some scratches and scars and stuff from the monsters trying to save her father. And each time it just has not been successful for her. Also, I like her new hairstyle. It looks pretty good. That wig looks crazy, but the short hair looks nice. Then there's the question of the guy in the yellow suit and whether or not if he was actually summoned by the song. I'm willing to bet that he was. He gives Jim a very specific line that I think means a lot more than we might actually think it means. He tells Jim how knowledge comes with a cost. And we got to keep in mind how this guy didn't go for Jade or Tabitha. He went for Jim. So this tells me that Jim knew some things that he wasn't supposed to know. I think this is initially why this guy contacted Jim over the radio in season 1, I think it was. And we also have to keep in mind that this guy shows up right after Tabitha just gave Jim all of this information about everything that's going on. And then the guy approaches Jim and tells him how knowledge comes with a cost. Because Jim now knows so much more about what's happening, but he's not necessarily a part of the original story. He now becomes someone who's basically an outlier in all of this. And honestly, he's probably a piece of the puzzle that's not supposed to be here. So although this special monster tried to warn Jim, he already knew that this was more than likely going to end the same way that it has already ended several times already, because he says, you know, this didn't have to happen, you know, meaning that it has already happened before. And because he kills like a monster, I'm willing to assume that he is a monster. And it's pretty clear that this monster is a lot different from the others because he seems to be out in the daytime. It's like how Dracula can walk around in the daytime or something. It's like, is this the original monster that made the sacrifice? Is he the it, you know, like the leader of this cult that promised all the parents all of this eternal life? It could have been him, and he's possibly the one keeping all of the order in Frumland. It's really pretty crazy to think about, honestly. And also coming back to the part about Jim that I mentioned earlier, and is he really doomed? Well, there's two things. I do think the way that Jim reacted at the end of this episode shows that he has not truly changed. And because he has not truly changed, this is what results in his continuous death. If he had actually changed, maybe he would have actually listened to Julie and this would have changed the events. And then the second thing is that maybe Jim isn't actually gone forever. Maybe there is a version of Jim that Julie can actually save. Maybe things have not gone down in the right way for her to be able to save Jim. Or all of these details just go back to the beginning and everything rests on the shoulders of Jade and Tabitha. All of these things have to be resolved by them saving the children, and maybe that will save Jim's life. But I do believe that Julie going through the story and being able to see all the events that she has seen and witnessed is for a reason. I don't believe that she has this ability for no reason at all, and everything is only left up to Jade and Tabitha. I feel like everybody plays a part in this. Even Boyd plays a pretty major role in this. But yeah, I don't know how these events are gonna unfold, and I hope we get season 4 as soon as fucking possible. But anyway, guys, please let me know your thoughts down below. I may have some plans to release some other videos about theories that I might have, because honestly, I can really go on about this season finale for a while. I got a lot of things I can say about this, so I might be putting out some other videos in the future pretty soon about From. But guys, as always, it has been a pleasure. If you indulge in my other content, please be sure to check that stuff out. I got a lot of fun shit to go around, I promise. But anyway, guys, as always, thank you for watching.